Welcome to your full moon update from me, Freya, at Freya Astrology. Today, we are going to be starting off this full moon forecast, which is going to become a monthly video that I share here. We are starting off this stellar transit information sharing extravaganza, not to be too much hype, with a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, which is becoming exact at around midday UK time on Tuesday, the 3rd of March at 12 degrees of Virgo, as you can see in the chart here that I am sharing with you. At the full moon, the moon is always exactly opposite the sun. So we have the sun at 12 degrees and 53 minutes of Pisces and the moon at 12 degrees and 53 minutes of Virgo. So the sun and the moon are always in exact opposition at the time of the full moon. And what happens here, in this case of this lunar eclipse, is that the lunation, in this case the full moon, is happening really close to the nodes. So this is the north node in Pisces at 8 degrees and the south node is in Virgo at 8 degrees. The nodes are always exactly opposite in the opposite zodiac signs to each other at the exact same degrees. So when the sun and the nodes are, well, the sun, the moon and the nodes are within 15 degrees of each other, this is known as an eclipse. And we are currently moving into the final half of our eclipse season, this sort of winter to spring shifting time in the northern hemisphere, where we had an Aquarius eclipse on the 17th of February, and now we have got this Virgo eclipse here on the 3rd of March. The Aquarius eclipse was a solar eclipse, which is a new moon eclipse, a new beginning eclipse. And this is an out of sign eclipse, as we have the nodes changing sign later on this year into the north node into the sign of Aquarius and the south node into the sign of Leo. But that's enough about the technicality. What is the lunar eclipse really doing for you? Well, let's take a look at it. We look at the house in our birth chart that is being illuminated by the sign of Virgo. We all have Virgo in our birth chart somewhere. So in the example of this eclipse chart that I've pulled up for the exact time of the eclipse, 11:37 on 3rd of March, Tuesday, the 3rd of March, the Cancer happens to be the rising sign here, and then the third house is the sign of Virgo. So we would marry up the idea of what the house topics are. So in this example, the third house is living environment, it's local neighborhood, it's communications, it's learning, it's siblings, it's cousins, it's early friendships made in primary school, definitely an information house. It's also the joy of the moon, which is a scheme known in ancient astrology where certain planets have their particular ultimate expression. So the moon likes to be in the third house. But I mean, this is only relevant to the UK time zone, because in other time zones, different signs will be rising and therefore the house placement won't matter. But if we were going to use this as a natal chart, as I always encourage all of us to do, is to look to see in our own natal chart, how is this lunation showing up for us, that we'll be kind of sharing over the coming months. Then the third house topics will be completely relevant if you're a Cancer rising, for example. So all those topics I just listed, we then look to those topics in our life to see, okay, where am I experiencing the energy of Virgo? Like, how is the energy of experiencing Virgo in my life showing up? Virgo is very much about simplifying, cutting back, refining, looking at the details of something, shifting things ever so slightly so that they fit in more. It's almost like trying to build a jigsaw puzzle in front of us and having to nudge that final piece so that all of the little nodules fit into the correct holes and we can flatten it down. And if we can't flatten it down, then it's kind of like it's incomplete or it doesn't finish. And then also checking, does that jigsaw puzzle piece actually fit in that hole, or is it actually meant for a hole over here? And we're trying too hard to make this jigsaw puzzle piece fit somewhere that it doesn't actually want to be. Virgo is also very much about living in the tangible realm, because it's an earth sign, so it's of the material world, things that we can touch. It's also the earth sign that is ruled by Mercury. So it's activating the senses. Mercury is different ways that we experience communication, that we share information and receive information coming into us. So this can activate the senses of sound, sight, smell, touch, taste, to a stronger extent, because we've got a full moon eclipse happening here. Virgo is very much, I always think of yoga with Virgo. It's very much about, in that very earthly sense of moving our physical earthly bodies into different positions to allow energy flows to move through us. Mercury is very connected to the flows of energies. You know, if you get something like Raynaud's syndrome or something, where your fingertips or the tips of your toes just can't experience that blood flow. It's like, Virgo asks us, how can we shift our bodies? How can we shift our literal physical experience in this earthly body into new positions to allow more energy to flow through us to support a more holistic, balanced sense of well-being within our own bodies. Virgo is a mutable sign, so it means that there is a curiosity and need to move and try different things. Like I said, if we're trying to fit that jigsaw puzzle piece in, but it doesn't quite fit there, and we're sort of hammering it down, you know, with our hands, and we still can't get that puzzle piece in, the energy of this full moon eclipse is asking us, at the south node of the moon, is asking us to release jabbing it down into that hole. Stop trying to make something fit where it does not fit. Remove that puzzle piece and try again. And it could just be the next piece down, even. It could literally be the tiniest shift like that, where the puzzle piece now fits in with no jabbing or anything, because it just glides in smoothly. And that is Virgo using their ability to refine, to create new systems, to allow and encourage the flow of energy once more throughout the body. The energy of an eclipse is always a lunar eclipse, in this case, is always a culmination point. And with the south node, there is an energy and an encouragement of asking us to let go, release, and surrender. So when we marry up all of the ideas, we think about the house placement. In the example of this chart, it's the third house, but that is based on a Cancer rising. If you're an Aries rising, it will be in a different house. So adjust for your house topics to be relevant to your own life. That's how astrology works. That's how horoscopic astrology works, is that we look at the house placements to see which life area is being activated by a transit or a lunation or an eclipse in this example. So for example, the 7th house, if you've got Virgo in the 7th house, this will be around your marriage house and one-to-one relationships. 11th house would be communities and groups. 5th house would be children and creativity. 2nd house is personal resources and self-worth. So you get the idea. So really knuckle down on, I don't know what this knuckle and fist energy is all about, but that is what's coming through for this video. So we'll go with it. But really get into your mind, what is the house placement saying to me? First of all, I find that's like a really good access point for understanding how it's going to impact us in our own lives. That's the first place I always go. Which birth chart house is it taking place in? I use this technique in my own life on a daily basis to check in. Okay, where am I experiencing this thing? Okay, it's going to be, in the example of this chart, in my 3rd house. I know that in my local living environment, my community, is also transportation, it's short journeys. I know that's going to be activated by this energy of culmination and completion, but also letting go, release, and surrender, because it's an eclipse, it's a full moon, and it's in the sign of Virgo. So I'm simplifying my life in my living environment. Am I simplifying my home? Am I moving house because I want to downsize? That would be a simplifying. Am I going from having a huge garden to having a smaller garden that's much more manageable because I haven't got the energy to prune everything that I need to do in my garden, or to rotivate the soil? That's a gardening term, right? I'm not a gardener, but I aspire to be. Where am I bringing nature into my life to help support my systems? If I haven't got a garden, have I got houseplants which are helping to create an oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange in my house, keeping the air fresher when having access to an outside private garden space isn't currently an option? Am I growing any kind of micro cress in my kitchen? Am I able to grow salad greens in my own home on my windowsill? How can I allow this sense of balanced well-being, simplifying, keeping nutrients really simple and inoffensive as well? That's very much a Virgo thing. We're thinking about trying to be kind with our digestion, because Virgo, like I said, is an earth sign, but it's also about it's about herbs, and it's about nature, and it's about greenery, and it's about thinking about nutrients within our own diet, thinking about, are we well hydrated? Have we got the balance of spicy? What is that thing? I can't think of the word. It's like the Indian Ayurveda. I'm not an Ayurveda expert, so go and seek out somebody else for that. But I do know that we fall into groups, a bit like in astrology and our zodiac signs. The Ayurveda works in this idea of, are you a spicy kind of hot person, or are you a cool kind of citrusy person, or are you like more of a kind of creamy kind of person? It's very much like, what are these physical senses saying to us? What supports our own bodies, our own blood system, our own hormonal system as well, with to give us the most amount of gusto in this lifetime to keep our energy levels vibrant and alive. We also think about sleep hygiene at this full moon eclipse, because we can't talk about the relevance of the eclipse in Virgo without thinking about the sun, which is always part of this eclipse makeup, in the sign of Pisces, with this massive pile up of Pisces placements as well in the sky, which is very much about rest, surrender, having the faith. So this could also be an eclipse where we're being asked to surrender and let go of being sort of obsessive about the details, and not allowing ourselves to have faith that things are going to work out in our favor, that there is some kind of higher force at play here that is taking care of our spiritual well-being. Virgo can get very caught up in our practical material world well-being, and the Pisces energy is very much asking us to think about, what's our spiritual well-being, what's our creative well-being, what is our sleep well-being, our rest and recuperation well-being. This Virgo eclipse is being ruled by the sign of Mercury, whilst we have Mercury as one of those Pisces pile-ups that is in the sky right now, and it is recently gone retrograde. It went retrograde on the 26th of February, so just a few days ago. It will be retrograde for 3 weeks, where it's going to move back from 22 degrees of Pisces back to 8 degrees of Pisces before it moves direct again. This harks back to anything that's taken place in our lives from the 11th of February onwards, because that's known as the pre-retrograde shadow, the degrees of the zodiac, which Mercury moves through before it decides to go back over them in the retrograde motion. And then once it goes direct, it goes back over those again, which is the post-retrograde shadow. So we get actually 22 degrees of Pisces back to 8 degrees of Pisces. We get that journey through the zodiac going 3 times in a kind of small space of time relatively. And therefore we really get this kind of, it almost turns into a microscope on, okay, how do I experience personally 8 degrees to 22 degrees of Pisces? Let's have a look, let's zone in, let's take this time to really focus on these ideas of building intuition, trusting what our intuition is telling us, trusting our psychic abilities, trusting our written abilities, trusting the messages that are coming through to us from music. That's a very strong one. Messages that are coming through to us from our own sense of romance. We think about Venus being very connected to romance. Venus is here in the sign of Pisces, where it's exalted, meaning that Venus is having a heyday in the sign of Pisces. She loves being in Pisces. She's very much like, let's romance our lives. That's what she is all about. Yeah, and by this point of the eclipse, we also have Mars in Pisces. So Mars is very connected to our energies. And in the sign of Pisces, there can be a fluctuation here of our energies. Over the next 6 weeks, we could feel more sleepy than usual. We could feel compelled to create our own art, write our own poetry, dance. Pisces rules the feet, so we think about the feet, the ankles, we think about movement, we think about flow. But again, this also translates into the Virgo side of things, where we're thinking about moving the messages through our body, moving the hormonal messages through our body. What is our body saying to us through our hormones? Are we tracking our cycle? Are we thinking about, okay, what is the moon doing whilst I am ovulating? What is the moon doing whilst I'm in the follicular phase and all the other phases? And that is something that I now do with my own cycle, is that I track what sign the moon is in on like the first day of my bleed, for example, or on the day of my ovulation, so that I can start to really build up a picture of my own body, my own moon. Moon is our body in our zodiac chart. How does my moon respond to hormones, which are very much a Virgo and Pisces theme? How does my body respond to these things? I mean, definitely in the sign of Pisces, these things that I can't see, but they are 1,000% real in the way that they create change in my emotional world, in my mental world, in my physical world. You know, my body changes throughout the month. It fluctuates with the moon. Sometimes it seems larger, sometimes it seems smaller, sometimes I'm kinder to myself, sometimes my skin feels softer, sometimes it feels more rough. It's paying attention to all of these things. This is the great magic of working with the astrology whilst also tracking our cycles, is that we really get to know ourselves better. This is what self-development is all about. This is what I love to use astrology for, and I'm really excited to share it all with you. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to come back here and stop sharing the chart. And I look forward to seeing you next time for our new moon update in 2 weeks' time. Take care.